You're listening to the Career Plus Life Catch-Up, episode number 90. Welcome to the Career Plus Life Catch-Up, a show anchored in reality to help you create a balanced life where you enjoy both your work and your life, because you don't have to choose. I am your host, Cecile Ferry, a corporate executive turned coach and working mom. This is your place for insights, advice, and tools to optimize your career direction, balance, and confidence. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get into it. Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I can't believe I am at episode number 90. It's getting really close to 100. I'm going to have to get really inspired for that. If you've got any requests, any suggestions, please reach out to me. I would love to hear them. So yes, I hope you're doing well. I hope April is a good month for you. And my little subtle guess is April is a month of action. There's lots going on astrologically. That's not today's topic, but it really inspired me actually to come on here today to talk about action. It is really a theme for the month of April because it is Aries season. If you know anything about Aries, or if you are Aries, you know that it's all about going after what you want, being courageous, being bold, being strong, like that momentum, that forward movement. So I really hope you're feeling this in your life this year, and that 2024 is really starting to shape up in a way that is moving you forward to where you want to go. If not, don't worry, because maybe today you will get that missing piece that you've been looking for to help you move into action. So, as usual, usually what inspires me to come on here are my own personal learnings, lessons, discoveries, assignments, you can call them whatever you want, like the things I go through in my own life. And this is one that I have become particularly aware in the last couple of weeks. So I'm really talking from my own experience here. I have recently realized that I was really, really good at having that pattern where I was always quite busy and expending a lot of energy from Monday to Friday and same on the weekend. But when I actually look at what I was achieving, I didn't find that I was moving forward enough. And basically that I was taking lots of action. It was kind of procrastination disguised as action. So I've had that aha, and I've learned a lot about this since, and I wanted to come on here and share because chances are this may resonate with you. And especially if you press play, my little guess is maybe there is something that resonates in the title of the episode for you. So don't feel like you're alone. I'm definitely with you in that boat. And I'm going to tell you today why this is happening and how you can shift out of procrastination, if maybe you're doing a bit of that, into action. And to be honest, because that was me, a lot of us don't even know we are doing this. It's like not even something we're conscious of. So after today, maybe you have something shifting into you. And please, little disclaimer up front, this is a zero shame episode. I'm saying that for myself, for you. Like, let's not shame ourselves for any of those behaviors because it doesn't help whatsoever. And really, like, there's so much shame already associated when we are in procrastination mode that we don't need to add another layer on top as we're reflecting on it today. So we're all clear, like, this is a zero shame zone. A lot of us are doing this, and we're here to learn why we're doing that and what we can do to change it moving forward. I hope you're excited. Let's get into it. Okay, well, let's start with the big guy, right? Let's just address it so we're done with it. Let's talk about procrastination, right? So there are obvious forms, right? I'm probably not going to teach you anything here, such as delaying things, like when you have the same thing in your to-do list and you just keep shifting it and pushing it to the following week. Or, like telling yourself, well, it's actually already quite 3:00 today. So by the time I actually get started, I won't have enough time. So I'll do it tomorrow. that postponing part, or just simply not doing the thing and instead doing nothing or doing something that kind of just switches us off, like having a nap, watching TV, scrolling our phone, social media, right? Maybe even having a snack, so doing something instead of doing the action. It can also be quite mental. It can be about ruminating, kind of just like stewing, sitting in our thoughts, just having lots of excuses around as to why we can't do it, and like just constantly making lists, for instance. So being in that over planning kind of mode, but not actually doing the thing. All right. So I'm sure a lot of us can relate to those things. We do it and it's human. Okay. Now there are less obvious forms as well of procrastination. So that's what I wanted to raise here. Namely, there's one that is about being busy with what I call other tasks, of things that are often mundane. And we tell ourselves that they are necessary. And we feel like when we're doing them, we're doing something valid and it's a good use of our time. But, I think we are actually lying to ourselves and we didn't realize. And one typical example of that is doing the laundry or cleaning the house. So I'm maybe calling you out on this, but trust me, I've called my own self out on this. I am just the expert at going and putting a load of laundry when I'm supposed to get into some work. And I feel like I'm really doing the right thing and I'm nearly like giving myself a high five because I'm doing it. But actually, I am procrastinating as I'm doing that. Other things that we might do, less obviously to procrastinate, we'll put others' needs first. And it's very valid. Like, this person needs me, my child needs this, or my boss, and all those things we can really justify. And likewise, the opposite of that is delegating. So we're actually not doing it, but we're pamming it off to lots of other people. That is procrastination. Or things like panicking. Being in that state where we panic actually puts us in a place where we're not taking any action. Or being sidetracked. So being like easily distracted and just like, oh, I do this, but then I'll just do this thing first and then I get back to it. And just like constantly switching and not realizing like we're scattered. Or also having the belief that we need X, Y, or Z to do or to have before we're ready to do something. That's a big one for women. Or, like researching things is another one. So we do actually like proper actions, intellectual work, and we're like, no, I'm doing it. I've been researching or I've been educating myself. And so I put in that bucket. And by the way, I've been doing this too, like listening to podcasts, even maybe listening to this podcast, but without taking the action on the back of it, or researching, or, putting things in place, but not actually moving ourselves from state A to state B. So that leads me to, how do we know we're actually procrastinating and doing it? Well, it's simple. We look at the result, and the result doesn't lie. So what have we achieved? As in, what have we actually created? What is the transformation, the difference from A to B? There should be new value created, new result created. And here I'm talking like facts. Like, this isn't just something out in thin air. It should be tangible and potentially really quantified. So I'm sorry for all the parents out here who are like, but I've been working all week, getting the laundry done and getting the kids fed and doing the grocery shopping. Yes, all of those things. But that's not what I'm talking about here in terms of result. I'm not saying it's procrastination. I think this is different. I'll talk about it in a minute. But sometimes we can use that as a way to procrastinate. So here I'm talking about action aligned with your values, with your goals. We'll talk about that in a minute. So I think we can all agree on that rule. Like, if we are busy, it doesn't matter how busy and exhausted we are. If at the end of the week, we don't have a couple of facts and things that we can say we have done and achieved, then very likely we are in some capacity, we are to some degree in some kind of procrastination mode. And that's okay. Bear with me. So why do we procrastinate? By the way, I'm not a procrastination expert. I don't have a license in that. So I'm only giving you my perspective, my opinion, and what I know from all the readings I've done on this. So I will say first, it's not a genetic trait. It's not a predisposition. It's not something you're born with or something part of your character. You know, like some of us can be like, I've always been like this, or, you know, like, oh, telling ourselves we're lazy, that's just who we are. I don't believe so. I think it's a learned behavior. There are things that we do because we adapt and often we protect ourselves. So bear with me, I'm going to go a little bit deep here, but hopefully it will help shed some light for you. Because they are both environmental factors, right? With procrastination, like if we are disturbed or, you know, environments that are not conducive to clarity, to focus, that sort of thing. You know, if there are people always calling you, interrupting you, like it's really going to be difficult. But there are also a lot of inner factors. And this is where I want to focus on today because that's what we control. And I've learned that recently, and that was an eye-opening for me. So it may be for you. Procrastination comes from an inner game. I don't want to say it's not your fault, but you're procrastinating not because you're lazy, not because you can't get your ass into gear, not because you don't know what to do. You're procrastinating because you are in a certain feeling state. There's a feeling that creates that. And so that's the first step. I want all of you and I want all of us to think and have compassion because it's not something that we're doing on purpose. We have thoughts, we have feelings, we are in a certain state, and that is what just makes us not do those things or do the specific things I've just went through. So overall, that inner state, I'm going to be broad here, but it doesn't feel really good. We can have low energy, we can have low drive, we might be depressed, we might feel lethargic. We might be also like in a state of fear, being afraid about things. So we just like swimming, marinating in that kind of semi-bad state. That may resonate with you. And it's okay if we do this and we feel like that's quite a dominant feeling in our life. And that's the thing, especially a lot of us do this. And that was my realization too. Like we can get stuck in that kind of feeling place and it can become our modus operandi. And it's not our fault again, but it's a habit because we have been, responding to the same stimuli. We have been running the same patterns for so long. So we feel a certain way, kind of day in, day out. We're hoping for something that will just magically take us out of that state, but the reality is it's kind of our dominant feeling. And from that state, it's very hard to be motivated to take some action. Now I'm going to take this one step further and give you some more information. What's sitting under that feeling and that state of, of kind of don't really feel like anything, okay? State of blah, whatever you want to call it. This can come from what's called the freeze response. You may have heard there are different kind of stress responses that your body engages in when there is some external stimuli, and especially over a long period of time. There's the fight and flight. I'm sure I have spoken about that in different podcasts. And there is the freeze and there's the fawn. So here I want to talk about the freeze. So procrastination is actually a mirror. Like this is what happened when you have been in a freeze state for probably quite some time. So what is freeze? Freeze essentially is a reaction of our body and then mind when we don't feel 100% safe, and especially it hasn't It has been some time we haven't felt safe, and it's our attempt to protect ourselves by shutting down. Exactly that image of we're freezing, so we're not doing anything. We are procrastinating. Some symptoms for you here. You can be lethargic. You may have disrupted sleep, especially like waking up during the night, not thinking clearly, kind of going through the motion, having difficulty finding solution, creative, ideas, difficulty recalling short-term and long-term memories. You might feel disconnected from your body, so you don't always feel your actual physical symptoms, or you can feel detached from your feelings and emotions. And from a mental point of view, you might feel lost, you might feel a little powerless, a little helpless, that kind of depressive state. So if you want to know more about this, if this speaks to you, go and look up Nicole LePera, Dr. Nicole LePera, the holistic psychologist. She's on Instagram. She has books. She really explains this very, very well, how it manifests in our life. And I will share with you a bit later on in this episode some of her tools to combat that, to get out of the freeze mode. But I'm here to help share that so that it might make sense. You might be like, right? And it can come from many reasons, and that's not what we're here for. But just see whether you identify with that kind of freeze response. That is actually a safety mechanism. And what I like to add as well about why do we procrastinate is that often we procrastinate because we are actually afraid. We don't do the exact things that we actually want or that would get us into a state that we actually desire. Isn't that crazy? Do I need to say that again? So why would we do that to ourselves? But we do. Like we know when we want a new job, when we want a new relationship, when we want a new home, all those things, we know what we're yearning for. We know what's good for us. And somehow it's typical when we procrastinate doing the very thing that we need to do in order to access that. And you can call it self-sabotage. It's the same, that procrastination, right? It's that lack of action. And why do we do that? Because I think, and that's what I have learned myself too, we're actually afraid of having what it is that we want. We're afraid of the success. We're afraid of the good things. We're like, what else going to happen if I get that? It's weird. We get so accustomed nearly to the pain versus be actually attracted to really having the joy, the pleasure, the fun, the stuff that we really want. This is again something to do with your nervous system where, we kind of choose safety over success because it requires courage. So many of us will choose safety over courage, even if it means kind of pain and not greatness, okay? Many of us do this, and I think COVID really didn't help because COVID put us in that freeze zone even more and said, don't do anything. It's not safe, and you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And by the way, you have a lot less rights and options to do things. So I think that has just anchored this even more into us, into just don't do things. And I think that's why we're coming out of that, and it's really hard for us and for everybody to get ourselves back into action and to chase things for ourselves. This is a theme I've spoken about in this podcast kind of every year as I talk about the review for the year. I think it's really difficult for us to get back into some action. But hopefully not anymore after this episode and what you're learning. Okay, so now let's move to the other side of today's topic, the action side, the one we want, right? And here I'm talking action with a big A, not action with a small a. The small a is still action, but it's what I call the regular routine, the stuff you need to do so that your life doesn't fall apart, or the life of the people who depend on you doesn't fall apart, i.e. your kids, right? we'll still need to feed our kids, we still need to attend to our houses, we still need to, have showers and all those things we do from, morning to night, 7 days a week, right? Yes, we are taking those actions, they're necessary. But to me, they are supportive for other things, to allow your kids to thrive or yourself, put you in good conditions to take the action with the big A. They are enablers of other things. And part of them as well are just simply duties or obligations. So you just have to do them. So these are all the small A's. And maybe we need to start there. Like maybe we think we are an active person because we've got our life full of small A's. And this brings me back to, was it last week's episode? Yes, the last episode on how to prioritize, episode 89, I believe. So in that one, I talked about different kind of actions bringing different kind of results. So if you listen to it, I talked about quadrant 3, where all the action that you took there gave you very small return. So the small A's are in quadrant 3. They start, you have to try to limit literally, because otherwise they can take over your time and they don't turn into a concrete return and they don't turn into a capital A action. So that's not what I'm talking about. Here I'm talking about the stuff that is in quadrant 2, which is the actions, the things that when you take them, they bring you like a return that is 3 to 10 folds. So these are things that move you closer to your purpose or that are within your purpose, in alignment with it. They are things that create value for you, for other people, for the world, right? And I'm talking creation here. New things, new results, anything. Can be a book, can be an artwork, it can be a new product, a service, a project, a new process, a new website, like whatever it is, but you can like physically see it in the 3D world, right? And it is usually that action is inspired. It's not just like something that someone tells you to do. Often it's like something that you know in you or you've been guided to find. Whether it's your intuition or you've been guided by, a friend, a coach, right? Anything, like you've been put on the track. This is how life works. And because those things are good for you and make you grow and are going to bring you closer to what you want. So we do have energy coming at the kind of to fuel that action with a big A. I think when you look at it, action with a small a, if you look at what energy you are into just before doing it or as you're doing it, it's not a lot of energy. Like it's a pretty flat, minimal energy, if I can say, was the action with a big A. As much as there will be often fear involved, doesn't matter. You can do fear and action together. It has that expensive energy. It feels like fuel. It feels like foot on the gas, right? Well, procrastination is foot on the brake, right? But small a is kind of like I'm just in neutral gear and I'm just cruising, right? And I stop if I have to stop and I go forward if I have to go forward. This isn't foot down on the accelerator, which is the big A. The big A has a purpose. It is a step towards something bigger. And by the way, it doesn't feel super good usually. And that will bring me back to the last episode, number 87, on actually 2 episodes back, being in your discomfort zone. Right? And I talked about how when you see what you have to do and you can get stuck and go back and not do it, i.e. procrastinate. I love how, without even any planning, my episodes are building on top of each other. This is just quite beautiful to see. So you want to move into discomfort zone and take the inspire action that has a big A. So if you haven't listened to those episodes, the last 2 on prioritization and on the discomfort zone, highly recommend you go and listen to them. I will link them in the show notes. Now, what action is not on that big A, and I might be calling out some people here, sorry, is people that are active all the time. Kind of, the restless, kind of sometimes hyperactive, people who cannot sit down doing nothing, people who seem to be always on the go, people that don't have a gap in their calendar, that are literally going from one thing to the next and sometimes like rushing, right? People that just go, go, go from the moment they get up in the morning to when they put their head on the pillow at night. That is not action with a capital A, unless in the middle of this, you have blocks of time where you work on what is purposeful for you, what is aligned in your value. But most often than not, again, this is full of small A's. And I think that form of restlessness is often there in order to either fill a void, or it's to avoid feeling certain things about ourselves. Avoid like even being connected and hearing what it is that we feel and what we might desire. And that again is a learned behavior. Most likely we've had parents that were like that, at least one of them. So they didn't do it and we just follow, right? And we get really busy and we don't realize, and it doesn't feel comfortable for us to sit down and have nothing to do, because then we're just sitting with our thoughts and with ourselves, and that feels quite foreign. So I'll say two things here. This could resonate with people who have been diagnosed with ADHD because they are stuck in that cycle of hyperactivity and procrastination, like the stuff that doesn't interest them. They're just not going to do it. They are quite high procrastinators from what I understand, but they also have that hyperactivity. So they're like compensating. The other thing that might apply to many more people is that fight or flight response. So when you're active all the time, the fight or flight, especially it's more the flight part actually than the fight. The fight might be like actually picking up fight, like having a strong reaction to something happening. The flight part is you are just evading it. You're just escaping the situation by distracting yourself, by being busy and doing other things. So again, that can come back to issues of like anxiety or, looking for safety. So in the freeze response that I talked about, you don't feel safe and you protect yourself by shutting down. But in the fight and flight mode, you look for safety by acting, by mobilizing yourself all the time. It's just two different sides of the same coin. So let's not confuse that with massive action, because they're not big A's. Okay, now I'm going to bridge the two. How do we move from one to the other? Especially more like, how do we move from procrastination to action? Step number one, if you do anything out of today, I hope it can be that one: awareness of being in procrastination. Maybe awareness of being stuck in a freeze mode, and maybe it has been quite some time. And that is just simple. You look at your results. Have you been kind of seeing the same over the last couple of months, even years? Like in the last 5 years, what has really changed? Well, in the last 2 years even. Or when you catch up with your regular friends, like how much do you have to share that is new, that is concrete action? And also look at your coping mechanism. So the stuff you fill your time with. It could be lots of those small A's, actions to fill the time, or not doing what you know will get you ahead, will get your life into a happier place. When you've been just sitting there and you've got to do it, but you're not doing it, right? So that's the first step. Like, be onto yourself and be like, okay, I'm doing this. And that was me a couple of weeks back, even though I'm quite driven. And sometimes I've been doing it way better. I've spent years in freeze mode and now I'm coming out of it, especially this year. And all my episodes probably since the beginning of January represent that. I've been talking about goals and really getting some traction. So you got to see it in order to change it and to want to change it. So really look back. What are all the things that, have been happening and continue to happen? What is that kind of baggage or backpack that you're kind of carrying, where, you can see those behaviors I have described. And, look at all those things, and is there a trend here of things not really moving forward? And likewise, start projecting yourself. Once you've done that work, kind of reviewing a bit the past, think like if nothing changes, if you keep the same modus operandi, what would your life look like 2 years from now? And maybe 4 or 5 years from now, if you can project yourself. Imagine, same. And that's the thing. Procrastination, freeze mode is same, because it's safe. Okay? And how does that look for you? Do you like that? Would you like your life to look like that? And if you do, that's fine. But maybe you don't. And also maybe you really see a cost to yourself, maybe to other people, on your relationship, if you're not getting out of that mode. So that's step number 1, that awareness, and think about what's going to happen if you don't change it. Okay, step number 2 is to look after the physiological side of things. You cannot move into action if your body and then your mind, because your mind will follow your body. They are very intricately linked. You cannot get yourself into taking some action if you don't have the right energy. Okay. I won't go into detail here because it's not my specialty, but I'll point out 2 people that you should really follow that will give you plenty of advice and tools in that space. The first one is Dr. Libby Weaver. She will talk about especially all the nutrient side of things. So there could be lots of things going on in your body, especially with what you eat. And I totally relate to that. I've shared this on this podcast earlier. I've realized that me eating gluten really had an impact on my energy and my fatigue levels and on my mental clarity. So I'm living proof that this stuff is really linked. So there may be things going on with you, with your food, with your diet, but also she covers so many other topics around sleep, around stress level. So especially for women, this is really important to discover, to get on that journey of what do you need to do to restore your body so that then your mind is in a good place. So I wouldn't be doing you any favor if I just told you, well, go and do all those things if your body is not in the right place. She has a great book, Dr. Libby, called From Exhausted to Energized, which I really recommend. Gives you a very holistic but comprehensive view of all the potential things that are sitting underneath your energy levels. And that has a huge impact on your mental energy. The research is only just starting to come through on that, but your gut and other things in your body and your hormones and all of that really has an impact on how you're feeling mentally. Now, second person, I've already named her, is Dr. LaPera. She talks a lot about how to look after your nervous system. So follow her, look at what she's sharing online. Some pointers for you here are relaxation, really important to find ways to relax your body, whether it's, consciously relaxing your muscles or having massage. Also, cold exposure is very good to get you out of freeze. So having cold showers or even putting your head into a cold bucket of water. These are things I haven't tried personally. I've tried cold showers actually, and that works really well. But they are out there and they work. There's also sound stimulation. I've spoken about binaural beats, frequencies, auditory frequencies that can help, aligning your mental space. Or even, let's go back to basics, movement and rest. A lot of us are not doing enough of those 2 things. And finally, breathing. I've put it last, even though it's the cheapest, easiest, quickest one. But I think it's one of the hardest for us to do because we're not really trained into doing that. But you can start realizing, and there's lots of breathing tools online, how to just, move from shallow breathing to belly breathing and have longer breath. That would really start getting you out of the freeze. So if you do anything, I'm not saying get off this podcast and do massive action with the big A. you may need to start with all of that for a couple of weeks to really get your body into a different space. Because from that space, it's going to feel so much easier, so much more natural to take action. So don't skip that stage unless you already know that your nervous system is in a good place and you do those things as part of your normal routine. You know, the movement and the rest and the breathing, and you're eating well, like you're feeling energized. So that's step number 2. Step number 3, and I'm going fast because each of those could have their own podcast, but this episode is turning into a long one, so I want to get you to the end. So step number 3 is the self-knowledge piece. So it's knowing what are those big A's, what are your values, what is your purpose, what are you trying to bring into your life. So it's knowing the big rocks that you're moving towards, the things that are in quadrant 2. And I can help you do that through career coaching or life coaching. It's really, really important that you get that clarity, which you can get once you get yourself physically into a good place. And I've added to self-knowledge piece as well what I call the self-love piece, because once you know what it is that you want, and before you move into doing it, you won't be successful in taking the action unless you are, I believe, in a state of loving yourself enough that you really want to support yourself. You want yourself to succeed. You want the best for yourself. I'm not saying like you love yourself to the max, but you've moved from a place of maybe low self-worth or low self-love for many, many reasons we won't get into. But you've raised that up and you really like care for yourself, you connected with yourself, and you kind of like your own best friend, because you need that. It's an ingredient to allow you to follow through, to push through the discomfort as well. Because when you're in that state, you won't want to disappoint yourself. You won't want to let yourself down. Exactly. Like it's one thing to be aware of your pattern and be like, I've been procrastinating. But I think the self-love is just a magical switch that pulls you out of it and go, hey, grab your own self by the hand and go, I want better and I know I can and I want to do that for myself. And that way you don't beat yourself up from all the procrastination that you've done, but it's really nice, caring, compassionate energy, a self-loving energy, being like, okay, now we're going to do the thing. I find it's the conduit you really need to move from procrastination to action once you're aware you were procrastinating. Okay, and step number 4, and when you're like, you're in the best possible place now to take the action because you're aware, you know what you want to do, and you know why it's important, and you want that for yourself. So then it's just, I won't say simply, planning and doing. So that's the step where you decide. You usually need, I recommend, an accountability partner, a friend, a partner, a coach, that will keep you on track. And that's what I do. I have a friend, I have a best friend, I have my own support team that are like, Cécile, let's go. And this is nearly like sometimes they tell me, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And it's up to me to go, yes, no, but I need that, right? So for me, I do. So you know yourself. Some people are more self-driven and they don't tend to veer back into procrastination as much. But a lot of us, it's not easy. So, set yourself up for success. Get the right structure to support you. And then schedule it. And then you do it. So I've spoken about that in other episodes, right? And then you can reward yourself afterwards if that's important to you. I don't need the reward. My reward is to feel great because I've done it. Like that's my reward. I don't need to treat myself. But that's just me, right? You might be different. And that reward might motivate you. And one thing that's good to do in that step is to track your progress. So I've spoken about that before. I'm using a goal tracker, like a sort of a big diary for the whole year that I bought in Australia from KKK, but I'm sure you can find plenty of options online. And it breaks down like your yearly goal into quarterly focus goals. And then what I love is every quarter then turns into every month. And there's like focus for the month and for the quarter, and make me list 10 actions I'm going to take. And that is the step that I find the hardest when I plan, because then I feel like, okay, this is the stuff, the big A, where I have to do it, and I can go back and tick that. And this is the stuff I don't want to do. So even just writing those actions down is already a big step forward. So break it down and focus on doing your top 10 actions every quarter, and then just tick every week. Like now I'm able to break it down. Today I'm super clear that I'm doing this podcast, and then this afternoon I'm doing things on my website, and like there is just no negotiation. Like I'm doing that because then I'm going to feel good and I've taken action with a big A. So we're getting to the end now, and thank you for hanging out for so long today with me. I didn't expect it to be so big, but it's a big topic. And I really hope that you've had many ahas and it started to like open like little light bulbs, doors into your mind, and you're like, oh, I'm going to maybe start doing this, start doing that. That is really my hope. Job would have been done if I've just ignited some new thinking and maybe some new actions for you. I think the biggest part is seeing what you're doing currently, and it's that awareness piece, you know, and because that I think will propel you to be like, okay, maybe I want something else, and just decide to do things differently, to change that, because you're so worthy of the life that you want. And that's when we realize actually kind of we are the only person that's standing in the way. We like to think it's other things, other people, external circumstances, but when the reality downs on us, usually it's us and we're not taking enough action, then hopefully that is enough to get us go, you know what? And not in a bad way. Please don't punish yourself. Don't beat yourself up, because that will not be conducive. That will not put you in a good frame of mind to move forward. So, you know, just be real with yourself and forgive yourself maybe for any patterns in the past. Maybe you didn't know, now you do. And just like start to set the wheels in motion, and just like commit yourself to one action with a big A this week and one next week, and like enlist the help of a friend to keep you on track. Or if not, just do it by yourself. But don't cheat yourself. It needs to be a big A action, not just something that feels really safe. It needs to feel like something you don't feel like doing very much. All right, so I'm going to leave you on this note. You may want to re-listen. I know there was a lot to take in, but I really hope this has helped you. And I wish you all the best on this journey to massive action. Wishing you sincerely all the success, and I am here to help you. If you do need the support, if you do need the guidance, reach out on my website at careercatchup.com. Book in for a free discovery call with me. Let's talk about what it is that you want to do, that you've been trying to do, but for some reason you just can't seem to move forward. I've given you some pointers here today, and together, one-on-one, we can make this happen really fast. All right, my friend, I'm going to love you and leave you. Have a beautiful week, and I'll speak to you in the next episode. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to find out more information, you can visit my website at careercatchup.com. There you will find blog articles, free resources, a self-study course for your career direction, and ways to work with me. It's at careercatchup.com. I hope to continue to connect with you and support you. Talk to you soon.